presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
On this Tuesday night, it's another typical day in St. Louis. It's hot, it's humid, and inside Busch Stadium, a big crowd will gather for the middle game of this three-game series, Reds and the Cardinals, right here on Fox Sports Ohio. And hi, everyone. Along with Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Jim Kelch, and welcome once again to Reds baseball. Well, the big question today then becomes, what do the Reds do to get over last night's game, the loss in the first game of this series when the Cardinals scored 5 times in the bottom of the 9th inning? The answer is twofold. One, have a bow tie Tuesday, and 2, put Brandon Finnegan on the mound.
Well, you know what? That's a pretty good combination right there, because big-time karma with the bow tie on Tuesday. Even with the sports shirt, we're going to try it tonight, because the Reds need it now more than ever before. You don't want a lasting effect of that implosion of the bullpen to carry over to today, but the Reds are running out a left-hander today that's throwing the ball extremely well. Over his last couple of times out, 12 innings overall for Brandon Finnegan, all scoreless, including shutout baseball his last time against the Cardinals and Mike Leake at Great American Ballpark, where he beat him 7-0. So Finnegan's getting good because he's taking a little bit off his effort, getting the ball down, letting his natural movement take over, plus the fact that he's not lost one bit of doggishness when he goes right after you. This guy's a bulldog, and expect him to go out and pitch his best tonight.
Well, here's the matchup now for tonight. It was also, Chris, the matchup last Thursday in Cincinnati.
Mike Leake has really struggled. I mean, he was 4-1 in the month of May, and he's been so-so ever since. His earned run average right now is about a run 0.1 higher than it was last year when he ended. So this is not exactly what the Cardinals expected when they signed him to a long-term deal. They want him to be an innings eater, but they want him to be quality innings. Right now, he's not giving them the quality innings that they thought that they would get from Mike Leake.
Well, we'll see how it goes tonight. Second game of this three-game series here in St. Louis, Reds and the Cardinals. Now, last night's ending was certainly a unique one, but when we come back, Jim Day will show us some more weird and wild stuff regarding the Reds and the Cardinals.
Cardinals, particularly after what happened last night. I'm Jim Day. Let's face it, no matter where you are in the standings, last night's loss was a devastating one to take, but it's certainly not the only crazy ending between the Reds and the Cardinals. It's part of our Elk and Elk storylines. Let's go back in time. May 2nd, 2005. Jim Edmonds hits a 3-run home run, and then John Mabry, a 2-run home run in the ninth. The Cardinals scored 7 runs in the ninth to come back and beat the Reds at GABP 10-9. May 15, 2010, the Civil Rights game. Joe Mather to left field. Heisey to Cabrera to Ramon Hernandez to end the game. Skip Schumacher thrown out at home for the final out. Reds win 4-3. Mike Leake improved to 4-0 on the season. April 8th, 2013. Cardinals home opener right here. Reds score 9 runs in the top of the ninth to break a 4-4 tie. They sent 15 batters to the plate, scored 9 runs on 6 hits, 5 walks, and an error. August 19th, 2014. J.J. Hoover hits John Jay for a walk-off hit by pitch, and unfortunately, that's how last night ended as well. The Reds had a 4-run lead, 2 outs, runner on in the ninth. Cingrani gave up 3 hits, 2 walks, and hit batsman. Ohlendorf walked a batter and then hit Yadier Molina for a walk-off victory as the Cardinals stunned the Reds, scoring 5 in the ninth. And believe it or not, the Cardinals have won 3 of the last 4 MLB games decided by a walk-off hit by pitch. What will happen tonight? Who knows? We'll enjoy it together and find out together. On the other side, Tony Renda. Who's this guy? The book on Renda as we sit down with him when we come back on Fox Sports Ohio. Pleasure to welcome in Tony Renda. And as we sit here now, you know, a lot of guys have to wait a while to get their first hit and their first RBI. You got both of those out of the way. How's that feel?
It feels great. You know, now we can just get to playing baseball and don't have to worry about all that stuff. And, you know, when I get in there and get my opportunity, try to make the most of it.
When you got your first RBI, it was the first hit that you got where you weren't sleeping, so to speak, since they changed the scoring decision. That had to feel nice.
Yeah, it did. It did. Everybody was telling me, well, now you got a real hit. I said, well, the first one was a real hit too. But yeah, I just happened to have rolled out of bed and gotten that one. So, no, the second hit was great, so happy to have it.
California kid, right? Originally drafted by the Nationals, traded over to the Yankees, and then traded to the Reds in the Aroldis Chapman deal. So it's kind of been a whirlwind of stops for you, has it not?
It has. It was kind of a crazy year last year with the 2 trades. But I was really, really excited about coming here. When I got the call in the offseason, was notified that I'd been traded to the Reds, instantly I was just like, let's go. I'm excited about that. So really happy to be here, happy to be with the team, and you know, happy to you know, help us win some ball games.
You've got to be proud that you earned your way here. You had to hit your way here.
Yeah. You know, that's kind of been my whole career. Being a so-called undersized guy, I don't see myself that way, but you have to earn it. And, you know, I wouldn't have it any other way. I've kind of spent my whole life earning things, and you know, nothing sweeter than being rewarded for good play.
You talk about being an undersized guy. To me, it doesn't matter what size you are. If you're a ball player, you're a ball player. But that being said, it had to be a hurdle that you had to get over at each stop. Has it been?
Sure. You know, I'm 5'8". I don't lie about it. I'm 5'8", but I like to think that I play like I'm 6'4". You know, make people forget about my size, and at the end of the day, I'm a ball player. Love playing the game, love getting after it, and hustling and playing hard and winning. So I'm, you know, happy to be here.
As we speak right now, you're coming off the bench. How much of an adjustment is that for a guy that's used to playing nearly every day?
You know, it's an adjustment, but you know, like I said, when they call on me to, you know, late in the game, exciting situations, tight games, that's when you want to be in there. You know, that's when the game's on the line. That's when you want to be up to bat. You want to be in there in tough situations and come through. And you know, it's been an adjustment, but one that I'm happy to make.
One last question. When you're looking forward, you got a pretty good opportunity, because who knows what the future holds for this club. There might be some openings and a chance for you to stick.
Sure. You know, I think the future is very bright for this club. You know, you know, we can't look past tonight. You know, we got to go out there and win tonight, win tomorrow. But you know, I think the future is bright here. So.
Appreciate your time. Lots of luck, and we're glad to have you in the Reds organization.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's Tony Rinda. Stay with us. Reds and Cardinals coming up. On the other side, lineups and first pitch on the home of the Reds, Fox Sports Ohio.
Well, Mike Leake right off the rubber. Billy Hamilton out of the batter's box. Thanks for waiting for us, guys. We appreciate it. We're back. We are ready for our first pitch of this game. The Reds and the Cardinals here from St. Louis, game 2 of this 3-game series. Billy Hamilton, Zach Cozart, Joey Votto to face their former teammate Mike Leake for the first time this year here in St. Louis, but for the third time overall. First pitch a ball, now a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike to Billy Hamilton. 87 degrees game time temperature here in downtown St. Louis as Mike Leake makes his 23rd start of the year. 8 wins, 9 losses, an ERA of 4.80. Things have not gone well though for him in the 2 starts he's made against the Reds or in his last 3 starts overall dating back to the end of July. Last 3 starts at 10.69 ERA for Mike Leake. Now he's gone full to Billy Hamilton to get this one started tonight. Billy at 255 overall. 1 hit, 4 at bats in last night's game. And there's a base hit for Billy Hamilton. He has done very well not only against the Cardinals this year at .391, but particularly against Billy Hamilton. He is now, or rather against Mike Leake, he is now 5 of 6 against Leake this year. In fact, he is our IGS bringing the energy man tonight. Most innings with multiple stolen bases since 2013. Look at the list. And right at the top, with no one close to him really, is Billy Hamilton. 20 of them. He did it in the first inning of each of the last 2 games for the Reds. Here last night and in Pittsburgh when he had 4 stolen bases on Sunday.
Well, you got to think that he will be off to the races here because Leake this year has had a hard time holding runners. He's given up 11. They have thrown out 4. Molina behind the plate simply does not throw like he once did.
Held over there by Moss. Gets a good lead and a bad throw that'll bounce off the fencing over near the Cardinal dugout. That'll get Billy down to second base on a throwing error by Mike Leake.
Tell you, if Leake puts that ball on the money, they have Billy Hamilton picked off. But really the way he ought to look at it right now is it's probably inevitable that Billy Hamilton was going to steal second base anyway. So whether he gets there on an error or he gets there on a stolen base, he's in scoring position. Now, can Cozart get him over? He was not able to do it last night in the first inning. We'll see if he can get the ball to the right side here.
And last night in the first inning with Billy at second base, he struck out. An inning later, he had that 2-run double.
Yeah, but he didn't have a runner on first trying to get him over then. I think Zach changes his entire approach with this situation right here, and he simply doesn't look comfortable. I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, they ought to drop him in a lineup because, you know, he can't get Hamilton to third base. Billy can steal there if he has to. But sometimes when what you're called to do takes you out of what really feels good, you're not good at it. And I think that's the case for Cozart here, at least what I've noticed lately. He's trying to get it to the right side. Mike Leake's going to crowd him inside with fastballs. And instead of turning on him, you're going to try to push him the other way. Go ahead and let it rip.
Kickoff play to second, and they got him. Leake had 2 pickoffs this year coming into this game, and as you said, they almost had him at first, and they get him dancing around at second.
Well, Leake is very quick. I mean, the guy has actions of a middle infielder, and he spins and turns. Good timing. Billy doesn't pick up the shortstop sneaking in behind him right there, and even though he wasn't that far off, you got to give credit to Mike Leake for a quick move.
Cozart shoots it out to the alley in right center, and that ball is caught by Stephen Piscotty. Take a look at the rest of the Reds lineup. We've seen Hamilton, we've seen Cozart. Votto steps in there now, batting in the number 3 spot. Then it's Duvall, Phillips, and Schebler. Suarez, Barnhart, and Finnegan make up the bottom 3. It's the same lineup tonight that was in there last night, except for the pitcher. So here now is Joey Votto. Comes into the game, leading the league in on-base percentage up to .420. His average .288 with 18 home runs and 56 runs batted in. Last night he had a hit 1 out of 5. It was an RBI triple in the second inning when the Reds produced 3 runs. Interesting defensive alignment. They shift him, but they do not put 3 defenders on the right side. Rather, Peralta, the shortstop, plays almost right behind the second base bag.
So really, they give him a base hit if he wants to lay the ball down the left side of the infield. And Mike Leake simply doesn't have the stuff to get Joey Votto out. He simply has to provide Votto a good opportunity to get himself out.
Well, the Reds saw Leake last Thursday in Cincinnati. In that game, Leake was able to handle Votto 3 times. He was 0 for 3. And he hits this one right up the middle, and that's a base hit for Joey Votto. So 2 hits in the inning for the Reds. Votto on with 2 out. Take a look at the Cardinals defensive setup, brought to you by your Ford dealers. They line up like this tonight. Holiday, Pham, Piscotty across the outfield. Jerko and Peralta on the left side. Carpenter and Moss on the right side. Leake and Molina make up the Cardinal battery here on this Tuesday night, August the 9th. So here's Adam Duvall. Duvall at .239 with 26 home runs. That's tops on this club. 72 runs batted in. Also number 1 on this Reds team. You see his home run total 5th in the National League, but he's going through an 0 for 17 and 1 for 20 hitting drought right now. Hammers this ball to center field. Pham will be there. Sounded great off the bat, but Pham handles it. Duvall is out, and the Reds finish in inning number 1. Sports Ohio is brought to you by Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good. It's Skyline time. On the mound tonight for the Reds, making start number 23, the left-hander, only 23 years old. Pitching very well here as of late, Brandon Finnegan.
Well, you know, he feels like he belongs now, and I think that he's beyond the point of trying to prove to everybody that he can be a starting pitcher in the major leagues. He's pitched much better lately, 12 consecutive shutout innings, and he does it in efficient fashion. He's a guy that is beginning to get his breaking pitches over. There could be, you know, some improvement there. His changeup is still, you know, maybe not slow enough to get hitters off his fastball all that much, but you know, he's a guy that has really shown a lot here the first time through the major leagues as a starter.
He gets Matt Carpenter to lead it off, then Stephen Piscotty, then Matt Holliday. Reds had a couple of hits. There was a Leake throwing error in the top of the first, but the Reds failed to score, and now Finnegan trying to hang a 0 here in the bottom of the first and keep his scoreless innings streak going, which sits at 12 after throwing 6 shutout innings out in San Diego on July the 29th, and then 6 shutout innings against this Cardinal team last Thursday at Great American Ballpark. You've made the point twice before this game has started, Chris, about Finnegan's success could come from the fact that he's backed off a little bit.
Well, you're right. I mean, sometimes you can just notice it, like on that pitch right there, when pitchers miss high or they miss up and away, it's usually because their front side's flying open, because they're so excited about throwing that pitch, they just push off too fast. Back off a little bit, you'll get better action on your fastball and better location.
Carpenter at 294 with 14 home runs. He's driven in 55. Off-speed pitch there from Finnegan. Evens the count at 2-2.
Good looking slider. I mean, you can see that Carpenter was way out in front. Funky swing on that pitch.
Carpenter in just his 4th game playing since coming off the disabled list with a left oblique injury. He's out most of a month. Duvall chasing this ball near the line, will get there and make the catch. Carpenter retired to start the bottom of the 1st. Take a look at the rest of the lineup put forth tonight by Mike Matheny, the manager of this Cardinal team. Stephen Piscotty walking to the plate in the 2 spot, then Holiday. Then it's Moss, Molina, and Peralta. Jerko, Pham, and Leake against Brandon Finnegan. Piscotty, a pair of hits last night, including a big one in the 9th inning that made it a 4-3 game. He was 2 for 5, and he's hitting .281 overall with 15 home runs and a team best 61 runs batted in. Talked last night about the fact that this guy can play the outfield spots and also some first base. He actually played more left field last year than anywhere else, but this year he has been their man in right field. He has played some left, he has played some first, but by and large they have made him the everyday right fielder. Finnegan falls behind 3-0. He did not walk a batter when he faced the Cardinals last Thursday. Significant because it was only the 3rd time this year in his 22 starts that he did not walk a batter in a game. He has walked one here as Piscotty walks on 4. First base runner of the night for the Cardinals is a free pass. Take a look at the Reds defensive lineup, brought to you by your Ford dealers. Same as last night. Duvall out at left, Hamilton at center, Schebler in right. The corner infielders, Votto at first, Suarez at 3rd. Keystone combination includes Cozart and Phillips. Battery of Finnegan and Barnhart. Here's Matt Holliday. Phillips cheating toward the middle of the diamond, the Reds' second baseman. Holliday at 238, 18 home runs, driven in 59. Hitless in the game last night, 0 for 4. Did draw the walk in the 9th inning from Cingrani. Turned out to be the last batter Cingrani faced. Hard to center. Hamilton charging quickly and makes the catch of that ball for out number 2.
Does it seem like Matt Holliday makes one line drive out every night? I mean, just for good measure.
Made one last night. He hit that ball to Phillips.
He just seems like he centers the ball up, but he hits the ball at people more than the average Joe.
So 2 men out. Here's Brandon Moss. Moss hitless last night, 0 for 4. Did have that bases loaded walk that tied the game in the 9th. 18 long ones. He's driven in 45. Another one that spent most of July on the disabled list, activated on the 2nd of August with a left ankle injury. Ross has been a major thorn in the Red side this year to the tune of a .361 average with 5 home runs.
Ross is a guy, if you watch him at the plate, he starts with an open stance, but he brings his right foot back to square, if not even a little bit more towards the third baseline. He prepares himself to hit that pitch on the outer part of the plate. I think that's why Barnhart and Finnegan wanted to pitch him inside on that last one.
You know, you see a lot of guys do that. Start with an open stance and then close up. What do you think the idea behind that?
Well, the idea of the open stance is that you're able to turn your head facing the pitcher better than when you start as a closed stance, because you want to see the baseball with both eyes. It gives guys a better chance to do that. Also gives them a little movement in the batter's box. Nobody wants to hit from a still position. So you open, then you bring your right foot back around, and they're going to call a balk on Finnegan. I thought he was very close the first time. And it'll be interesting to see what exactly that was. That's Angel Hernandez down there at first base. No argument for Finnegan.
Second balk by Finnegan this year. Angel Hernandez, yeah, he's the guy over there.
Yeah, I think what he did there is that he brought his right foot past the pitcher's plate towards second base. If that right foot goes back over the pitcher's foot, or maybe he didn't think he stepped towards first base. Hard to tell from that angle whether he broke the plane over the pitching rubber or whether he just simply didn't step towards first base. There is no 45-degree line.
You hear a lot of that, but you're right.
Well, Major League Baseball experimented with that a few years ago, and they decided that wasn't going to work. In fact, they were even going to draw lines on fields.
Didn't they do that years ago in spring training?
Yeah, and pitchers just simply scratched them out. Doesn't matter.
Moss called out on strikes. Nice job by Finnegan to work around the walk and the balk in the first. Live streaming sports service delivers everything you've come to expect and more. It includes a free subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions do apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. Scoreless first turned in by Mike Leake and Brandon Finnegan. Now it's Leake against Brandon Phillips to get inning #2 underway. Phillips at .279. His average continues to rise. 8 home runs, 45 runs batted in. Kept a hitting streak alive last night when he went 1 for 3, had a double in the third. So he's hitting 6 in a row, but 23 of his last 25. He's ahead 3 balls and no strikes. a 4-pitch free pass.
Got to be emotional still for Mike Leake to be pitching against the Reds. Had not faced him until this season, and he has not pitched well against them at all. In fact, he's pitched 12 innings and he's given up 13 runs. And it's just been one ugly start after another when he's out there. But every time he looks up, he's got a guy in the batter's box that he was in the same locker room with for 5.5 years. So sometimes it's very difficult to put the emotions aside and go to the business of baseball.
Slowly hit right side. This is going to be an out at second base as Moss goes to Peralta to get the force out on Brandon Phillips.
It's a nice play by Moss. I mean, he took his time, but he knew he had enough time. The ball was directly to him. He set his feet and wanted to make sure that they got that lead runner.
So Schebler will run the bases, held over there by Moss, and the batter will be Eugenio Suarez. You're talking about the 2 starts that Leake has made against the Reds. In both of them, he got out of the gate fairly well. That first start he made, which certainly was probably the most emotional, back on June the 7th in Cincinnati. Scoreless game through 3. The Reds put up a 4 spot against him in the 4th. He ended up giving up, as you mentioned, 6 runs and 6 in the 3rd. And then last Thursday, he allowed 3 runs, 5 hits through 5 innings. And the Reds laid a 4 spot on him in the 6th. He did not get an out in that inning.
Well, I think the thing that has followed Mike Leake is the same bugaboo that kind of got him in Cincinnati. 2 things, really. Number 1 is that his changeup is not a lot slower than his fastball. There's only about 5 miles per hour difference for Leake. His changeup this year is being measured at 86 miles an hour. That's about 4 miles an hour too fast, really, for my book with Leake. Secondly, he's falling in love with that cutter. He's throwing that cutter about 30% of the time, and he's only throwing his fastball less than 50% of the time. Contrast that with what Finnegan does. He throws his fastball 70% of the time. So Leake has gotten away from, basic pitching by falling in love with the off-speed stuff.
To the right side, they will get an out at second, but not at first base. Suarez beats the relay. That goes Carpenter to Peralta before Schebler, and out number 2. I guess what you're talking about then really goes back to what Mac Jenkins came out and said as soon as he arrived as the pitching coach. I should say arrived, but was promoted to the pitching coach's job, and that is command the fastball.
Well, command the fastball, number 1. I mean, everybody has to do that, but number 2 is you have to have something that you throw off speed to get those hitters off your fastball. And those guys that have good changeups usually have about 8 to 12 miles an hour separation between their fastball and their change. When it's a 5 mile an hour difference, it's not that big. Same thing as trailing Cody Reed around right now. His changeup is simply too fast, and eventually he's going to come up with an off-speed pitch that is really an off-speed pitch. But it takes a while to develop that.
Barnhart bats with 2 men out. Carpenter to his right. On to first to retire the Reds catcher. And the 0 in the top of the 2nd, turned in by Mike Leake.
quality pitches in the zone, you can get outs. You know, every once in a while you can throw a good pitch and give up a home run. It's happened a couple times this year. It's going to happen, but really for the most part, it's just I got to trust my stuff. I know my stuff, you know, has enough movement, has enough life that it can get outs up here. So that was the main thing, is just those strikes.
Brandon Finnegan, one of those guys that came to the big leagues early, so learning on the job, if you will. That's not earth-shattering news. Throw it in the zone and throw strikes, but he's learning, like a lot of young pitchers, trust your stuff. Guys are going to get themselves out. He's been doing well of late.
You know what else is not headline news, and that he is a very confident young man, Brandon Finnegan. Not cocky, but very confident in what he feels he can do.
Right on the edge. I mean, and you like guys like that. You don't want your pitchers to be out there and shy and holding their head down all the time. You want them to think that they're invincible, at least when they step on the pitching mound. Because after all, they're controlling the ball game. More so in baseball than any other sport where you have a guy that controls the game.
And they put that 0 up in the first. It's now 13 straight consecutive scoreless, the longest of his short major league career. This ball blasted by Molina, and that streak comes to an end with that swing by Yadier Molina. Only his 4th home run. Cardinals take the early lead.
Well, he pretty much pipes one for Molina, and even though Molina likes to hit that ball to right field, every once in a while he'll drop the hammer on you.
Chris mentioned last night the Cardinals lead the National League in home runs. That's their 150th home run this year. And again, only the 4th by Molina, but a 1-0 St. Louis lead. It's Finnegan who has been touched up now 23 times. That is the 2nd most in the National League in terms of giving up home run balls.
It is, but you know, when you're looking at Max Scherzer being as the #1 home run giver-upper, you're in pretty good company. I mean, there's some pretty good pitchers on that list. Jeff Samardzija. You know, so Madison Bumgarner has given up more than Brandon Finnegan. Mike Leake is 12th, so what you have tonight is a matchup of a couple of pitchers that have given up the long ball, mainly because they come right after the hitters. Leake comes after them with off-speed stuff. Finnegan challenges them more with fastballs.
Speaking of Max Scherzer, how about what he's doing tonight? 6 2/3 of no-hit baseball. Peralta strikes out. So a home run followed by a strikeout. 2nd of the game for Brandon Finnegan. That game, by the way, tonight involving Scherzer's Nationals at home against the Cleveland Indians, and in the 7th. Been the 1 no-hitter this year in Major League Baseball. That was, of course, Jake Arrieta of the Cubs against the Redlegs.
You would have to bring that up on the tails of last night's loss.
Just
of
for
the
factual
two worst losses
purposes.
the Reds have had all year.
Just for factual purposes, sir.
It's funny how one team, the Reds, obviously hoping that there is no hangover effect from last night's debacle, and on the other dugout, of course, Mike Matheny is hoping that there is some kind of lasting effect, that this would be the type of victory that would propel his team into overdrive, because they certainly need it. They came into this series against the Reds having lost 2 series in a row to last place teams. Won the Reds back in Cincinnati and won the Atlanta Braves on the road.
What they did do with the win last night and the Marlins loss in that 14-inning game against the Giants is pull even with the Marlins for the second National League wild card spot. That was a heck of a game involving the Giants and the Marlins last night. Ultimately, the Giants won it in 14, 8-7. Brandon Crawford, what about him? 7 hits in that game last night for San Francisco, doing something that had not been accomplished in the big leagues in 46 years.
You know, I didn't notice, I'm sure it was written somewhere, did you notice how much his batting average went up in one night after getting 7 hits? Did anybody mark that down?
I think it was 13 points.
That's a good raise right there.
To walk here to Jed Jerko, puts him on with 1 out in the second. Well, as we speak, Francisco Lindor gets a base hit against Scherzer in the 7th inning, and so the no-hit bid in DC comes to an end. By the way, 41 years. My math a little off. 1975, Rennie Stennett, the last major league player to have 7 hits in a game. And last night it occurs for Brandon Crawford of the Giants. That was in Stennett's, it should be noted, was in a 9-inning game. Brandon Crawford did it last night in a 14-inning game. The all-time record, 9 hits in a game, was in an 18-inning game back in the 30s. Tommy Pham playing center field. Wonder where Randall Grichuk is. He's down in the minor leagues, not hitting very well this year for the Cardinals. They sent him down in July. Tommy Pham now getting the opportunity to earn the center field spot. He is down on strikes as he swings at that one down and in. Second strike out of the inning and 3rd of the game for Finnegan. Walked 2, he struck out 3, and now we'll deal with the pitcher, Mike Lee.
That down and in pitch that he throws, if it's a slider, is going to be a very effective strikeout pitch going forward for Finnegan. I mean, that is one of the most difficult pitches for right-handed hitters to handle against a left-handed pitcher if you stay on top and drive it down. That's what they're trying to get with Cody Reed. A little more action downward rather than sideways. I just like the way Finnegan's keeping the ball down recently. Really, that was the only thing that was separating him earlier in the year from being an exceptional major league pitcher rather than a guy hovering right around 500.
And you had to like his innings pitched versus hits ratio. That was good. His innings pitched to strikeout was not 1 an inning, but I don't know that that's necessarily a prerequisite to be considered good. His walks were high. The home runs were high. And he's been able to handle those things as of late. Matchup tonight of a couple of pitchers who take pride in their hitting. Leake, of course, did very well swinging the bat as a member of the Reds. He has 6 career home runs. Finnegan got off to a very hot start at the plate this year. Cooled off, what, since about May or so. Still, he enjoys swinging the bat, takes pride in his at-bats. Leake is out on strikes, so 3 strikeouts in the inning for Brandon Finnegan. We are through 2 here at Busch. Girls on the run and their dedication to empowering young girls and instilling confidence through running. Registration is now open. Learn more about how you can get involved this fall and visit foxsportssupports.com. 1-0 St. Louis through 2. A home run by Yadier Molina, his 4th of the year, the only tally in this one. And Brandon Finnegan, who struck out 3 in the bottom of the 2nd, leads things off here in the top of the 3rd. Hitting 119 this year with a couple of RBIs, Finnegan, but he is in the midst of an 0-for-28 drought at the plate after coming up with a lot of hits early in the season, and he'll stretch that to 0-for-29 as Carpenter throws him out here on the first pitch of inning number 3. Batter will be Billy Hamilton. Talked about the fact that Hamilton has really done well against the Cardinals this year, and in particular against Mike Leake. Came into this game hitting .391 with a .440 on base percentage against St. Louis in 2016, and against his old teammate, counting that hit he had in the first inning, he is now 5 for 6 with a home run against Leake.
They still respect the possibility of a bunt from Billy. They're bringing the infield in, even with the bag. Moss and Jerko. You know what seems to me for Billy, it's a complete transformation of how he's able to slow things down in the batter's box. Early in the year, he just seemed so anxious to try to show everybody he ought to be a big league hitter and a leadoff man, that he was swinging at just about anything that came in there. Now he's making the pitcher pump the pitches in there where he wants them, which is preferably down in the zone. Billy was chasing a lot of pitches just there above the letters, and boy, there's just no way he can get on top of those, and he'd pop them up, and it was very frustrating to watch.
There's a perfect example of it right there. Billy draws the walk, his 25th walk of the year. Certainly the things that you're talking about come with maturity, being now in his 3rd full season in the big leagues.
Well, those people who have watched the Cardinals for a long time, and I mean, you've got to go back to the 80s to remember these guys, but they had a very fleet-footed team under Whitey Herzog, Tommy Herr, Willie McGee, Vince Coleman. And, you know, I played with Willie McGee as a youngster in the minor leagues, and it took him a long time before he finally had the light go on. He became the MVP of the National League in 1985. Vince Coleman was in the big leagues for a few years before he figured it out as to how he could become pesky at the plate. And Billy's been on twice.
Takes off on the first pitch. The throw is a little bit high, and Billy's going to get the stolen base. He will have number 46, and that once again puts him ahead of Jonathan Villar for the top spot in the National League.
Well, it was really a modified pitch out too, so you couldn't get a better pitch to handle if you're Yadier Molina.
Number 46 for Billy Hamilton puts him now at 18 for 20 in his career against Yadier Molina.
You know, this is not a situation now where Kozar's trying to hit the ball the right side to move Billy over. But on a 2-0 pitch, you know, he's going to either get one that he really likes and cut it loose, or maybe give Billy a chance to scoot in there to third base. Nobody really holding Hamilton on. 2-0 cutter. The cutter, if you're not familiar with what a cut fastball is, it's going to spin similar to a football spiral. Not quite as tight as a slider, but along that way, and it's going to move from a right-hander away from him.
So movement, but not as much movement as a slider.
Right, and the slider is really designed for a swing and a miss pitch. But a cutter is one that is supposed to just miss the sweet spot. So a hitter thinks it's a fastball. He's right on it. At the last second, it cuts an inch or so away, and he misses the sweet spot and gets a pop-up instead of a home run.
Up the middle, that sounded like he may have broken his bat. Billy broke back to second base, and then once the ball got by him, He moves over to third. First and third with one out for the Reds.
Billy broke back because he thought that may have been a line drive that would have been picked off by Peralta. He wasn't sure. Doesn't have eyes in the back of his head, so he's not exactly sure if Peralta has snuck in there a little bit. So why take a chance, especially when you have Joey Votto coming to the plate?
3 hits now for the Reds and an opportunity with Billy at third base. And 1 man out to at least tie this game with Joey Votto. Votto a base hit his first time, meaning he is now hit in 21 of his last 22. He continues to put up very, very big numbers. 333 in the month of August, 432 average for Votto since the All-Star break. Over 500, well over 500 on base since the break. Gets ahead 2-0. There's those since the break numbers for Joey Votto. A 546 on base, unheard of. Mentioned in his first at bat, he leads the league in on base percentage at .420. Nothing new for him. 4 consecutive years, 2010 to 2013, he led the National League in on base percentage. Here we have Molina and Leake thinking that they had a strike at that 2-0 pitch and didn't get it.
Well, if you're wondering, will Joey Votto swing on a 3-0 pitch? He has 3 times so far this year, and he's got 1 hit. Career-wise, though, on a 3-0 pitch, he is 14 for 23. That computes to a .609 batting average with 4 home runs. I would imagine Molina knows that.
Certainly Leake would know that.
That's why he didn't get a 3-0 Leo.
He draws the walk, so he's been on 2 times tonight. 3 walks by Leake, sending Cozart down to second base, and the Reds have them loaded now with 1 out for their cleanup man, Adam Duvall. And ball 1.
Now this is the kind of situation that Leake has pitched into and has not really been able to pitch himself out of very well.
Of course, Adam Duvall traded for Mike Leake. His first career home run was against Leake out in San Francisco. He also had a 3-run homer against Leake earlier this year over in Cincinnati.
That was a pitcher's pitch right there. Good idea for Duvall just to lay off it.
Out in front of that, he fouled it back, and now it's 1-2.
You know, one of the best ways to get a ground ball double play ball is to come inside with a sinking fastball. Hitter rolls over the top of it, you get a ground ball to the third baseman or shortstop, and you go home from there. The problem is, though, on a guy like Duvall, he's got such a short swing, gets to that inside pitch, that the Cardinals with bases loaded right here may not want to take that chance. And so they'll stay away. Ground ball numbers back is the way they were back in 2013 and 14.
Yet it's interesting to compare because in terms of double play balls, Finnegan has 5 more than Leake has produced, and his ground ball ratio not nearly as good. That ball hit hard up the middle by Duvall. Hamilton will score. Cozart will score. Big clutch hit by Adam Duvall, giving him RBIs 73 and 74. And the Reds take a 2-1 lead here in the third.
Well, he was scuffling a little bit at the plate. As you had mentioned, he was kind of in a little drought. But Leake just, I don't know what that pitch was, maybe a cutter that he just left up around thigh high, and that baby was screaming, hit me all the way to the plate, and that's exactly what Duvall did.
Duvall breaks an 0 for 18 skid with a 2-run single to center here in the third. That'll bring Phillips to the plate. Walked his first time, one of 3 issued by Mike Leake so far tonight. Big chance now. 2 on, 1 out, 2 in here in the third. To the mound. There's an out at second, and they get the other one at first. But Brandon Phillips, who is prone to the double play ball, hits into one right there, putting an end to the inning. That's the 12th double play he's hit into this year. Next Zone, presented by Miami University at Great American Ballpark. During your next visit, located on the third base concourse behind section 109, Reds Connect Zone offers free charging stations. We're always looking for those, plus 27 screens of game coverage, tweets, Instagram photos, trending topics, and much more. That's the Reds Connect Zone. Big hit by Adam Duvall in the 2-1 Reds lead. Here in the bottom of the third, top of the order for the Cardinals, featuring Carpenter, then Piscotty, then Holiday. Finnegan went through a stretch late April through the end of May where he made 8 starts, and all of them were losses for Cincinnati. Recently, he's won 4 of his last 5 starts, and tonight guns for the 500 mark overall. He's at 7 wins and 8 losses on the year, and tonight also the 50th big league appearance for Brandon Finnegan. In fact, it's a milestone for both he and his mound opponent Leake. For Finnegan, appearance number 50. For Mike Leake, appearance number 200.
Well, there was a time there was hardly anybody in the league that was older than Mike Leake when he broke in right out of Arizona State. Both of them, Leake and Finnegan, former #1 picks. Leake taken in 2009 first round. He was the 8th player taken, and Finnegan was taken 2014, the 17th player taken by the Royals. So both of them, I mean, you know, Finnegan, he went to the major leagues in his first professional season and pitched for the, obviously, for the Kansas City Royals in the World Series that year.
In the draft year.
In the draft year, yeah. He pitched in the College World Series, of course, and then the Major League World Series. We've covered that many times. But Leake was one of those rare cases who came right from college right into the major leagues without any seasoning in the minors.
can still remember sitting around late in spring training 2010 at the complex on a Goodyear when they were trying to decide, is it going to be Leake or is it going to be Travis Wood who makes this team as the number 5 starter? Turned out it was Leake. All 4 on a 3-2 pitch, so Finnegan walks his third. A leadoff man on for the second consecutive inning. Batter will be Stephen Piscotty. He walked his first time, advanced a second on a balk by Finnegan, but was stranded there when Moss took a called third strike.
Angel Hernandez keeping an extra eyeball on Finnegan after calling a balk on him in that first inning. We were still trying to determine, and we have not been able to get the final answer. Maybe I'd be able to do that after the game, what the balk was called on. Presumably Finnegan knows whether he just was called for not stepping towards first base or he actually had his right foot cross the plane of the pitching rubber and then threw to first.
But as you pointed out at the time, there was no argument from either Finnegan or the Reds dugout.
Well, you're not allowed to argue balks. Doesn't mean you can't try.
Nobody threw their hands in the air.
Just means you get an early shower. The one thing I've noticed about balks, though, is that they come in streaks. So once an umpire crew becomes aware of them, you know, sometimes you see they get hot.
Remember a balk call made by Angel Hernandez against Johnny Cueto. I don't know if it was last year or the year before out in San Francisco that Cueto got fairly hot under the collar about. Angel's very close to the bag over there at first base. See when they get set up. I mean to tell you, he's 2 steps, step and a half away from first base, eyeballing Finnegan. And now he goes full. He threw 79 pitches in 6 innings against the Cardinals last Thursday. He is approaching 50 rapidly here in the 3rd inning tonight. That's going to be a fair ball, and it's going to be handled by Barnhart. Out at first, going to 3rd, and got him at 3rd. Not a great throw by Votto, but good reaction by Suarez over there to handle the throw, put the tag on Carpenter. Mike Matheny to the top step. Their video guys will review this to make sure.
Well, especially because Matt Carpenter is standing on 3rd base believing he got his hand in there. Boy, he hit that dirt and just, it was like he hit a patch of Velcro. Look how he slides right here. Just almost barely even gets to the bag.
There's a high tag up near the shoulders. Carpenter's hand, did he get in there?
Ooh. Well, that's hard to tell.
They're looking at it down in the Cardinal clubhouse.
I don't know what it is about the dirt, but they're going to ask for a review right here. They must think that there's enough to want to at least make a shot, take a shot at it, try to get this call reversed. But that dirt at third base here, I mean, when he hit that dirt, he almost stopped completely. I don't know if you saw any clips of the slide that Buster Posey put on the Marlins last night, but I mean, it was a good old-fashioned classic face plant right into third base. I mean, that slide that we saw, maybe we can get another shot of it. If you can remember or recollect, go way back into those brain cells and think about Pete Rose sliding into third base. He would be airborne the entire time until his hand was in there. Carpenter takes the low route, and as the fans see that play on the big board here at Busch Stadium, I think that they feel like the Cardinals will prevail.
No, interesting though to see the reaction on that play from Finnegan before the call is made at third by Ted Barrett of out. Finnegan is jumping up and pumping his fist, and he had probably a better view than anybody.
Well, maybe they should defer to him, and they do.
Ball stands at third base. It'll go 2-3-5, and I think that Suarez did a good job of handling that one-hop throw from Votto and getting that tag down on Carpenter.
I was really surprised on two things in this play. Number one, how Piscotty doesn't run hard to first base, and number two, how soft that dirt is around third, and that's what kept Carpenter from getting in there safe.
Ball had some English on it when it came off the bat. It hit the grass and bounced right back into the chest protector, it looked like, of Barnhart. Now 2 out bases empty for Holiday. Lined out his first time. Finds himself now in the hole, 2 strikes. Cardinals get a run on the second and a home run by Molina. Reds 2 in the top of the third. A 2-run single by Duvall with the bases loaded, snapping an 0 for 18 drought. 2-1 Reds lead here in the home third. Nice off-speed pitch, had Holiday way out in front. Number 5 in terms of strikeouts for Finnegan. Ohio is brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. And by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. St. Louis Arch down on the landing here in St. Louis, Laclede's Landing. Jim Day's wife went up in the Arch yesterday. Took a great tour, invited Jim to go up. Jim, I don't think you said thanks, but no thanks on that, did you not?
Well, I was at work. Some of us have to work, but
oh, she went up when you were working.
Yes, indeed.
Otherwise, you would have gone up.
Probably not.
It must have been after his golf outing, and then when he went to work. So, you can't squeeze everything in on one trip to St. Louis, Jim. Maybe next time you get up there in that Arch.
Well, you know, we have to have priorities.
Yes, we do.
But your wife enjoyed the Arch viewing, right?
She did.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. I mean, the pictures are awesome.
Yeah. You know that thing rocks when you get up there.
I know. That's why I don't go up there. Heard all the stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Get in a little, like a cannonball thing, and up you go. Right
Not
through the heart of it.
Not good for a guy with vertigo.
Okay.
Just throwing that in there.
Reds get a base runner on, leadoff man on now for the third time in 4 innings against Mike Leake. Schebler hit by a pitch. Now it's Eugenio Suarez. Leake has not had a perfect inning yet. Talked about that ERA of him of over 10. Runner going and a stolen base. Schebler gets his second of the year. He's now in scoring position.
He's got good speed, Schebler does, and he gets a nice break right here. Leake really doesn't pay much attention to him. A good throw on one hop by Molina, but still not in time. Reds are really pushing the running game. And if you've noticed that the prospects that they have gotten in return for the trades that they've made have all been guys that are fleet-footed.
In the air to center off the bat of Suarez, and Pham going to make the play, and Schebler with that speed will tag and attempt to get to third, and he will get there. Good hustle play right there by Scott Schebler.
Well, Pham shows he's got a pretty good arm. Now, we mentioned last night how Tommy Pham, when he was scouted in high school, was a young man that was scouted really more for being a pitcher than he was a hitter. He was throwing 93 miles an hour as a high school senior, and a lot of teams wanted to sign him and put him on the mound. He made it clear to the Cardinals, I want to play every day.
So a chance for Tucker Barnhart with the infield in and 1 out. They're just looking at the stolen base numbers for Schebler coming up through the minor leagues. He had 15 last year at Oklahoma City. A couple of years ago he had 17. Double figures in stolen bases. Hard hit off the glove of Leake. The run will score as Peralta will make the play. Barnhart hit it hard, and once it rolled off Leake's glove, no chance to get the runner at the plate. Schebler, and the Reds out a run and now lead it 3-1. Goes down as a 1-6-3 put out and a run batted in. 30th of the year for Barnhart.
It's a big run batted in for Barnhart because you got the pitcher coming up next. Another Schinberger.
To retire the side. So Finnegan offering at the first pitch, grounds out, but the Reds get another run against Mike Leake for Brandon Finnegan. with a bang with Fireworks Fridays at GABP. Friday night, August the 19th. You can cheer on your Reds when they take on the Dodgers. You can do it for only $12. Don't miss a spectacular post-game fireworks show presented by Tri-Health. If you'd like tickets, 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com.
5 strikeouts for Brandon Finnegan. He finished the last inning by striking out Matt Holliday. He's got him on all pitches, fastball, slider, and changeup. And it was a great changeup that he threw to Holliday. Look at the grip that he's got right here. That's a typical circle changeup grip. And he gives good arm action, sells it as a fastball. And that ball coming out slow enough to get Holliday, the big swinger, way out in front. Had a 3-batter inning for Finnegan.
So Finnegan sitting at 53 pitches through 3. Deals with the middle of the Cardinal order. That means Moss, Molina, and Peralta. Finnegan trying to win his 3rd straight start. That would be a first for him in his big league career. One out in San Diego. He won against the Cardinals at home his last 2 starts. Trying to make it 3 in a row if he can get the Cardinals for the 2nd time in a row. Moss took a called 3rd strike his first time. And now 3-0. Molina on deck. Supplied the Cardinal run in the 2nd. The last man at the plate for the Cardinals in the bottom of the 9th last night. There's a 5-pitch walk by Finnegan of Moss. That's 4 of them now tonight. The open, we talked about the fact that in his last 2 starts he'd only walked 3, but kind of reverting in that area.
Well, you know, it's not easy facing teams back to back. You throw an outstanding game this last time, 6 innings, no runs, only 2 hits, and you think you come out and you think you've got to do something extra, or else they're going to get on top of you. And sometimes it causes you just to be a little bit too careful around the edges of the plate. That and the fact that you don't have your greatest stuff every time out. Some days it's more of a battle than others.
Reds trying to retire Molina for the first time since he took a called 3rd strike as the last batter to face Reed in the 6th inning last night. Remember, he led off that 5-run 9th with a single to right last night. Was the last batter, the 10th man to bat when he was hit by the pitch that forced in the winner. And he homered in the 2nd, so he's been on his last 3 times in this series. Here's the home run in the 2nd, only his 4th of the year. Got him there on a pitch in on his fists, and he fights it off, fouls it away. Molina's had some years which he's hit double digits in home runs, a career high 22 back in 2012. This year he had just the 1 home run through the first 3 months of the season. That ball will be fair and going to be an infield hit.
Boy, he has about as many home runs a year as he does infield hits. That doesn't happen very often. He takes a full swing. The third baseman Suarez playing way back. Look, he's back almost to the outfield grass. This ball somehow stays fair. Would have stayed fair anyway, even had Suarez let it go.
Looked like it hit the plate. So Molina been on base 4 straight times now. Last 2 last night, first 2 tonight. Cardinals have the tying runs on. Go ahead, run at the plate, and the personal Peralta. Strikeout victim his first time. Now Barnhart will go to the mound. Pitch count up over 60. 10 in this inning and is yet to get an out.
You know, I got to figure that Barnhart playing here in St. Louis last night, even as rough as it was there in the 9th inning, tonight, you know, he's playing in front of the catcher that he admired his entire life growing up. I mean, he held Yadier Molina, and probably still does, up on a pedestal somewhere, because Molina is that good. And Barnhart recognized that early on. I want to be like that guy. And here he is playing the same game with him. And he's beginning to take on some of the same traits and characters of Molina, running out to the mound early when he sees something going on here. Before this count goes to 2-0 and then 3-0, and then finally Mac Jenkins comes out. The first line of defense is your catcher going out there to try to get you back on track.
Ripped by Peralta into left. Duvall will come up with it cleanly, and Chris Maloney then puts the stop sign on, and Cozart snuck in behind the runner at third base over there. Moss hoping he'd go a little bit too far. Now they're loaded with nobody out.
Well, Duvall's got a good arm, and everybody knows that. He gets the ball quickly. He's accurate. He keeps the ball down for cutoff, and he comes up and just really plays out like a third baseman.
Here you get a good look at the cutoff now. Suarez to Cozart. Moss recognizing it, got back in time. Now Finnegan and the Reds really in a pickle. Bases loaded, nobody out. Jerko walked his first time. Movement now down in the Reds bullpen. People starting to move around a little bit down there. Double play ball. There's one. They get them both. A run does score, making it 4-2. But boy, that's a huge double play right there. 3-2, pardon me. Now runner third with 2 men out. Moss scores, no RBI for Jerko. And now Pham will be walked intentionally. Leak is on deck. Now, this is one of the things that the Rules Committee and the Committee on Keeping the Game Moving Along, pace of game folks, are looking at to eliminate next year. Instead of saying, okay, throw these 4 pitches, it'll be, hey, we want to put this guy on intentionally. Okay, head on down to first base. And you're back in action. Are you for or against that?
I don't think it'll make a whole lot of difference. Although, as I'm looking this year, I believe in Major League Baseball, there have been 649 intentional bases on balls.
A lot.
649 in 3,340 games. So a small percentage, but you know, you're not going to save a lot of time or increase the pace of play in one big swoop. You got to do a bunch of little things.
League bats with 2 on and 2 men out.
You want to pitch this guy carefully now. I mean, Brandon Finnegan is a pretty good hitter himself, and he recognizes the fact that Mike Leake can swing the bat.
Hamilton drifting back, but Billy's going to get to the spot. Makes the catch to retire Leake and put an end to the Cardinal fourth. They get a run through 4. The Reds by a 3-2 count.
Little bit. Over the last month or so, something you'll hear in the clubhouse before the Reds take BP. Joey Votto saying, "Hey, Billy, I'm going to the cage," which means, Billy Hamilton, let's go. Over the last month or so, Billy Hamilton has been a regular in taking in the sessions of Joey Votto and hitting coach Don Long. And Billy tells me the most important part of that is not necessarily watching what goes on, but listening to the interaction between Votto and Don Long. He says he's learned the most about baseball over the span throughout his entire life. And Votto is very routine-oriented. And he tells Billy, stick with your routine. It's a great encourager. Don't chase results, though. Don't get off course. We've seen Billy in the past, like you guys were talking about, trying to force the issue, trying to chase those results. He's also picked Votto's brain as Billy lines one into right field, but does make hard contact. He's also talking about strike zone command. And there's no one better in the league at strike zone command than Joey Votto. So Joey Votto has taken him under his wings, and boy, you can see the results.
Yeah, I love what you mentioned, Jim Day. The strike zone command. That was something that Billy really had trouble with his first couple of years.
Well, that's good stuff, Jim Day. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that people really appreciate, because you don't read about it. You get it from our sideline dugout guy. And that has really made it a positive effect on his entire team, because really 3 things have happened to turn his team around. Number 1, Hamilton has been getting on base and doing what he does on the base path. Joey Votto has caught fire, and the pitching has improved dramatically.
Yeah, we talked last night that despite what happened in the game last night, going into last night's game, the Reds bullpen had an ERA of right near 2 since the All-Star break, and even their starters were just over 4. Dramatic improvement from where they were earlier this year. Diving attempt by Jerko down there. He can't come up with it. The ball will go into the corner, and Zach Cozart going to get himself A 2-base hit out of this is 25th of the year. That's tops on this Reds team, and an opportunity to get that run back that they gave up in the bottom of the 4th.
This is kind of what I was talking about with Zach Cozart in the first inning. When he had a runner at second base, what you're told to do is hit the ball the other way. So the pitcher pitches you inside, you try to hit the other way, and you make an out. He did that last night. But this time he gets an inside pitch with no need to hit the ball the other way. He rips it right down the line.
Votto been on twice, has a base hit, drawn a walk. All the talk about watching Votto choke up when he has 2 strikes. You can see right there that even when he doesn't have 2 strikes, he is not on the edge of the bat, the knob of the bat, any longer. There's always a little bit of space between the end of his hands and the knob of the bat.
Well, Barry Bonds did that really for many, many years. And Bonds had bats that were essentially designed to be choked up on. And I'm wondering if that's just the same thing for Joey Votto. I mean, he wants bat control. I'm surprised there aren't more hitters that do that, especially guys who reach for the fences and can't get there anyway.
Broken bat. Pitcher has to get over and cover, and Leake does just that as Carpenter will throw him out. Second out of the inning. Just a reminder, as you enjoy the game here this evening in St. Louis, a little later on we'll bring you a Miller Time moment of the game, brought to you as always by Miller Lite. "4-1 on that put out. Leake took the throw from Carpenter. So an RBI chance now for Adam Duvall. Came through in the 3rd. Trying to do it here in the 5th. Runner at 3rd, 2 out. Now a 3-0 count with Phillips on deck. Mentioned last night, these 2 teams, 2 of the tops in hitting with runners in scoring position in the National League. Borderline strike now at a full count. Duvall coming in at 253. Phillips is on deck. Much better at 329. Foxtrax hauls that pitch inside. Lance Barksdale says on the inside corner. That one misses for ball 4, and so now Phillips, with a superior RZIP average, will come up there with runners at the corners and 2 men out. Four walks now tonight for Leake. That is a season worst for him. He has not struck out a batter tonight. That ball will drift out of play. Brennan has walked, bounced into a double play ball. Talking about the good success that Hamilton has had, that Duvall has had. against Mike Leake. Phillips the same way. He's 4 for 7 lifetime against his teammate here, Mike Leake. They did not face him last year as a Giant. Talking about Brandon hitting with runners in scoring position. Here's 2-out risk. Even better at 375. In fact, 3 of the top 5 in the league playing in this game tonight. Left center field. That ball is going to hang up and be caught by Tommy Pham to retire Phillips, and then the Reds threat in the 5th. They leave a pair. Rocket arms as we move into the bottom of the 5th inning. MLB strikeout leaders Max Scherzer tonight surpasses 200 for the 5th straight year. He's now at 208 strikeouts, and again 5th straight season of 200 or more. Jose Fernandez 198, but a big differential in innings pitched. Dusty Baker keeps his starter Scherzer out there. Fernandez roughly 25 innings less in terms of innings pitched than Scherzer. So his strikeouts per 9 higher.
Now remember, Fernandez, a young kid just coming off Tommy John surgery. Well, both pitchers have had a hard time really hitting the strike zone tonight. In fact, Brandon Finnegan is actually just about as many strikes as balls on the night. That ratio doesn't usually get you very far, but he's been pitching around some damage. First pitch, or first batter base hit here by Carpenter. I imagine it will not take much for the Reds bullpen to shift from Pilates to warm it up.
Carpenter gets the first pitch single. He snapped an 0 for 14 hole with a double in the 8th inning last night. Now he has a hit here in the 5th inning tonight. So it's 4 for the Cardinals in this game, 5 for the Reds. As Chris likes to say, the Pilates action continuing out in the bullpen. Wow, there's a little unique approach by Piscotty, something we don't see a lot of from him. He tries to bunt his way on. He's in the hole.
And really the biggest oddity about that is that he does it with already 1 strike on him. As I always remember Dusty Baker saying he never wanted to put a a bunt on somebody that had 1 strike already, because you put him into a 2-strike hole, and that's where Steven Piscotty finds himself right now. Very odd play.
Well, he sees where Phillips is certainly playing, and Votto holding the runner. You always bring up the name of Norris Hopper, who was just tremendous at that push bunt. Piscotty maybe seen that, and I can get this bunt by the pitcher. I've got myself an easy single. 2-2.
You had him 0-2. Now you have to come in there 3-2. Missed the same spot each of the last 3 pitches. Fastballs away, trying to get Piscotty to chase.
Finnegan will come up with his 80th pitch here. That breakdown Chris was talking about, he's thrown 39 balls and 40 strikes so far in this game. Yeah, that's not a good ratio for success. Suarez with a nice pick, and they get the out at second and complete the double play at first. That's a heck of a double play turn by the Reds right there, because Carpenter was running and that ball was smashed, and I'm telling you, Suarez picked that thing cleanly.
Well, it was good that it was smashed, because it had to get to Suarez quickly, and it did. Wow, hot corner down there. He throws it to Brandon Phillips a little bit high. Phillips is all wrapped up with Carpenter down there. A legal slide, but one that was really meant to upset Phillips, and he just kind of reaches over the top of Carpenter and completes the double play.
Third turn by the Reds tonight, none bigger than that one. A leadoff base hit, a rip by Piscotty, but the Reds turn that into a 5-4-3 double play. Now Holiday bats with the bases empty. That'll get out of play. Another line drive by Holiday over the head of the left fielder and over the wall. Holiday's 19th has tied this game at 3 here in the bottom of the 5th.
Well, he's already hit a line drive for an out tonight. Here, I really believe that Matt Holliday adjusts from at bat to at bat as well as any hitter in the National League. And he reaches, got a great plate coverage, and he reaches for that one and pulls it out of here on a line.
Third home run he's hit against the Reds this year, his 19th overall this season. Holiday closing in on 300 career home runs. He now is at 294 of them. He's also closing in on 2,000 career hits.
Well, he's 36 years old, Matt Holliday is. He signed through this year. The team has an option on him next year. And we'll see how that goes.
Duvall should be able to make the play, and he does. That retires Moss. That puts an end to the bottom of the 5th, but the Holiday home run sends us even into the 6th. Ballpark coming up Saturday, August the 20th. Thanks to Toyota, the first 25,000 fans will receive a very nice looking USA Reds t-shirt. Show your USA pride when you watch the Reds and the Dodgers go at it. You can do it for only $12. For tickets, 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com. 5 inning totals: 3-5-0 Cincinnati, 3-5-1 St. Louis. Schebler, Suarez, Barnhart. Anybody gets on Finnegan, and there is action now out in the Reds bullpen. Carpenter calling for this ball. And out number 1.
Now Schebler has really hit the skid since that dramatic walk-off home run on his first day up from the minor leagues when he hit it against the Cardinals in Cincinnati. He has cooled off considerably, and his swing has gotten a little bit big. His head moving at home plate, stride a little bit longer. We saw that earlier in the year when he seemed to want to make something happen all the time. Maybe over anxious is the best way to describe it.
Well, he's now 0 for his last 18.
The important thing for Scott to know, though, is that they have told him that you're going to be playing every day. I mean, whether you go 0 for or whether you hit lights out, we want to find out about you, and so relax and just play like a big leaguer.
That would mean against right-handers and left-handers. The question will be, of course, then tomorrow with Jaime Garcia, a left-hander, going for St. Louis, and Schebler going through what he is going through now, and the fact that Tony Renda can play the outfield. You wonder if Renda may get a start tomorrow.
And Tyler Holt, too, although he hasn't started in about a month.
This is a chance for Piscotty. Leake having his best inning of the night so far. I mean, he's had trouble in every inning in this game. Now he's gotten the first 2 here in the 6th.
The interesting thing about Mike Leake this year is that his walks are down, way down. So he's throwing way more strikes. He's giving up more hits than ever before, and the earned run average has really been hurt by that. It seems like the home runs that he's given up have been with runners on base, and that'll hurt the earned run average faster than anything.
Speaking of, Tony Renda is in the on-deck circle. 5 innings worth of work. It appears as if Brandon Finnegan is finished.
Hard 5 innings, so I mean, I should say a tough 5 innings. Really had to battle the Cardinals and himself.
Barnhart picked up an RBI back in the 4th inning on a smash off the glove of Leake. Turned out to be an out. This is going to be a hit. So the inning is alive. Renda, who was in the on-deck circle, will now come back, and it's going to be Finnegan who will stay in the game.
I'm not really sure what that was about, except that maybe by having Renda out there, they thought that perhaps Mike Leake would pitch around Duggar Barnhart.
First
Either way,
pitch
it didn't
swinging.
take long.
No, it's not going to affect what's happening here as Finnegan flies out. Reds leave a runner. We go to the bottom of the 6th of a 3-3 game.
Crawford earlier, and here it is last night. What a night he had, including capping off this game. Game tied at 7 down in Miami, 14th inning. And that will provide the difference, and it's our T-Mobile greater coverage of baseball. Crawford 7 for 8, double, triple, 2 RBIs. As you guys talked about earlier, 5th player in MLB history to have 7 hits in a game, first since Rennie Stennett back in 1975. His previous 11 games, just 6 hits and 35 at-bats, and as you said, raised that batting average big time last night.
Thank you, Jim Day. Yeah, 263 to 278, so 15-point jump in the batting average for Brandon Crawford. Remember, Crawford came up. This guy was a very slick fielder who really couldn't hit much at all.
No, but there were people inside the Giants organization that would tell you, be patient. He'll come around. His offense will be very good. He'll eventually be one of the best shortstops in the league, and he is at that pinnacle right now.
And that was a big story in baseball last night. Big story today was emanating from Texas, where it looks like Prince Fielder may have played his last game. A new conference set for tomorrow down there. And the story is that he's going to have a second neck surgery, and that his playing career is going to come to an end.
Too bad. I've always liked watching Fielder. I always thought he was a good guy. I've heard he's a very good teammate and a gamer. It's too bad. Not the way you want to go out in the middle of the year with an injury that will end up making it your last year.
He signed that big contract with Detroit, then was traded to Texas. He has a contract through 2020 that pays him $20 million a year. It's the second big name player this week that has announced that he is not going to be able to play anymore this year. One, decision made by the Yankees regarding A-Rod. He'll play his last game on Friday at Yankee Stadium. And today with Prince Fielder. Molina grounds out third to first to get the bottom of the 6th inning started. And Mark Teixeira is another one. You're exactly right. Announced that he is going to retire at the end of the season. Now, the most ironic thing about the Fielder announcement that's going to come tomorrow is that both he and his father, Cecil, end up with 319 career home runs.
Wow.
Isn't that something? Cardinals made an announcement of their own today. Michael Wacha, who started the game last night, plays today on the 15-day disabled list with right shoulder inflammation, and they called up their top prospect, the right-hander Alex Reyes from Memphis. They'll be working out of their bullpen, I guess, initially. The starting pitcher for the World team in the Futures game this year as part of the All-Star Week festivities out in San Diego. The 4-pitch walk issued to Peralta after he got a easy and quick out on Molina. That's a go-ahead run on in the bottom of the 6th. 6 now. 6 walks. That's a new career worst for Finnegan. One of those intentional, but still 6 walks in this game now by Finnegan after not walking a Cardinal last Thursday at home.
And the Cardinals got to be wondering why they only have 3 runs on the board. Finnegan has been brilliant in getting out of jams tonight.
Here goes Tucker to the mound again.
Now, there was activity in the bullpen. In fact, it looked like Josh Smith was all set, hot, ready to come into the ball game if they had pinch hit for Finnegan. And no one now throwing, but it wouldn't take Smith very much to get back up to game speed.
Back he is doing that now, yeah.
Throwing again. Boy, has he come a long way. Warming up and come into a 3-3 game.
Here comes Schebler on this fly ball by Jerko. That's the 2nd out. Now Finnegan an out away from a 3rd straight 6-inning outing. He can deal with Tommy Pham with the pitcher spot next. He struck out and he drew the intentional walk from Finnegan back in the 4th inning. Interesting that last week, and the Cardinals have had any number of leadoff men this year, although Carpenter has been primarily their leadoff hitter. Pham hit in the leadoff spot. He gets a base hit here. Peralta will turn. Hightail it over to 3rd. Pham going to try to stretch this for 2, and he will get there. Never slowed down coming around 1st. They had him played to go to right center. He hit it to left center. And Pham gets himself a 2-base hit.
Well, he's not going to wait around very long. He's a first pitch swinger, and he hits it hard right past the shortstop. That's a good athlete. We talked about his arm strength, and he's got some decent wheels. He is 28 years old, so he's an older guy for not having much major league experience.
So movement now on both sides. First, Greg Garcia will come on and bat for Mike Leake, whose night is finished after 6. Mac Jenkins, the pitching coach of the Reds, to the mound to talk things over with his battery. plus the shortstop Cozart. Josh Smith continues to throw in the Cincinnati bullpen. Six innings, 3 runs, 6 hits allowed by Mike Leake in a 4-walk, no strikeout outing for him. Greg Garcia, left-handed hitter, will pinch hit. Kevin Segrist is up and throwing and ready to go in the Cardinal bullpen. Garcia pinch hit in the 5th inning last night. He hit that fly ball to left field. Remember that Duvall got over there near the line on, and it hit his glove and he missed it. In the air to left center field, and Duvall is under it. Inning over. Well, the pinch hitter Garcia flies out. Finnegan gets through the bottom of the 6th. On the game summary, this is a Yadier Molina against Finnegan in inning number 2. Led off the second with his 4th home run of the year, giving the Cardinals the early 1-0 lead. How about Adam Duvall snapping an over 18 drought with his 2-run single into center in the 3rd, putting the Reds up by a run at 2-1. And Matt Holliday, his blast of a line drive with 2 men out, nobody on in the 5th, his 19th of the year. Tied the game at 3. That's where we are now as we head into inning number 7, our Honda game summary. New pitcher on for St. Louis, relieving Mike Leake, is the lefty Kevin Segrist. Brian Price and Mac Jenkins were out there talking with Ted Barrett, the crew chief, who is still out of position, looking into the Reds dugout. Not sure what that was all about. The Reds have a pitcher. Let's go down to Jim. Jim, what do you have down there?
Well, the Reds bullpen phone is not working, so they got to do the old-fashioned way. Run someone out there and tell them. That would be Dan Straley.
Gotcha. That's why you're positioned to where you are, Jim Day. You're our guy down there.
Well, you might wonder why they don't simply use cell phones, and that is not permitted under the rules of baseball. Have any electronic devices. What they're afraid of course, is that bullpens will relay to the dugout pitches and signs from the catcher and so on. and give one team an unfair advantage over another. So it used to be that before they had bullpen phones, every pitcher would have essentially a hand sign that would describe him. If he was really tall, you'd put your hand way up high and act like I want the tall guy. If he was a short guy, you put your hand down around waist high, I want the short guy. Somebody with a mustache, you put your finger over the lip and act like you have a mustache. But those good old days have gone by way of the red phone, which now is not working.
Somebody was rather rotund. You'd see their arms spread out. The big man. What was the signal for the crafty lefty? What was that?
Well, I had a mustache for just about all my career, so it was the finger over the upper lip.
What was it for Cowboy? Do you remember?
I don't know what it would be for Cowboy.
You know, I bet it was like putting a hat on, like we need the Cowboy.
Well, he wasn't the Cowboy. Well, he was the Cowboy. By the time he came to the Reds, he was the Cowboy. We may have to ask him that in our next Tech Talk.
Jim, you have an input on this?
Yeah, you just got to imitate eating a chicken wing.
Followed by ice cream.
Exactly.
You got to clean that chicken bone all the way down. That's the signal for the Cowboy. That'd be funny though if it was the hat. 10-gallon hat. Signifying we need the Cowboy to get up and start the throw.
What a good at bat for Billy. Third time tonight he's been on base.
Came in with a .307 on base average. He's walked twice tonight. His walk total this year is going to blow by his career best. We were looking at that earlier when he walked his first time up. Walked twice tonight. His career high for Billy Hamilton in terms of drawing walks was only 34 in his rookie year in 2014. This year with 2 tonight, he has 26 in almost 60 fewer games. On base average his first year of 292. Last year dipped down to 274. Started tonight at 307. Still not great, but going in the right direction. Mike Leake's final numbers turn out to be 3 runs, 6 hits, 6 innings, 4 walks, no strikeouts, 94 pitches. Cannot win, cannot lose. Josh Smith continuing to throw in the bullpen. Appears Brandon Finnegan then will also be finished after 6. His pitch total sitting at 98. Ozark tonight has himself a couple of hits. He's 2 for 3. Meaning he has hit in 16 of 17. With that one game in there, the errors charged to Gung at third on Sunday in Pittsburgh. Standing between he and a 17-game hitting streak. Billy going. No throw by Molina. Pitch was up and in, and Yadier really had no opportunity to make a throw. Hamilton gets his second stolen base, 47th of the year.
Well, Segras is a big, tall left-hander, and he really relies on a deceptive move to first base to keep the running game under control, and he's just not that deceptive, at least not for Billy.
Cozart rips this ball at Pham, who makes the play, and Hamilton trying to tag and get over there, and he'll get it done on a bad throw by Pham. Boy, there's not many guys, if any others, that could tag on that line drive other than Billy Hamilton.
Well, he's going to put the pressure on Pham because Pham has to kind of come over. The ball was hit very hard, and I thought Pham thought that ball was going to die before it got to him. It didn't. So Pham caught it in somewhat of an awkward position and then had a throw out of balance. But even then, a perfect throw is what it would take.
Jonathan Villar, by the way, has a caught stealing tonight. No stolen base for Milwaukee in their game at home against Atlanta into the 8th inning. So Billy with 2 tonight. Now at 47 has taken over the league lead.
Yeah, the Cardinals are talking over the guy at the plate, Joey Votto, how they're going to play this whole thing. Infield in, infield back, tie game. I doubt that they're going to want to give up a run for an out right here. Interesting that Kevin Seagrass, a specialist left-hander, the 3 batters that he has faced the most in his major league career: Anthony Rizzo, Jay Bruce, and Joey Votto. And each of those are batting right around 140. Votto had no intention to swing at that. Seagrass is probably wondering where that was. Evidently below the hollow of the knees.
Up the middle, and the Reds have regained the lead. Snuck by Seagrass against the drawn-in infield. Over second base it went and on into center. Votto gets himself his second hit of the night. RBI 57. Reds back in front 4-3.
The guy can flat out hit. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And when all else fails, hit it at the worst fielder on the team. And that's always the pitcher. He's only about 52 feet away from home plate by the time he finishes that big delivery. And Votto nearly undresses him with that 2-hopper through the box.
Yeah, Joey had been only 2 for 14 lifetime against Seagrass, but he gets the RBI single here, putting the Reds back in front. Pham chasing this ball off the bat of Duvall. He will get there. Now Michael Lorenzen has taken the place of Josh Smith and throwing in the Reds bullpen. Price said today, I know there were people wondering last night in the 9th inning, why isn't Lorenzen in there? Why isn't Iglesias in there instead of Ross Ollendorf? Brian Price said today that those two were unavailable to him last night. Both had pitched an inning in the game on Sunday in Pittsburgh. Lorenzen had also thrown Friday in Pittsburgh. Michael heating up now in the Reds bullpen. Reds get a walk out of Hamilton and a stolen base is 47. A line out by Cozart to medium deep center, in which Billy tagged and easily advanced to third, and then the RBI single up the middle against the drawn in infield by Votto to regain the lead here in the 7th at 4-3. relatively unique swing there by Phillips. Like he wanted to go to right field regardless of where this pitch was thrown.
Well, I think he's guarding against a breaking ball. And when you do that, you tend to swing later, because the last thing you want is to have all your weight out on your front foot. That's really what Votto's strategy is all about, why you see him slice that ball foul so many times.
Over the mound to Carpenter. Cardinals get the force out on Votto, putting it into the top of the 7th, but the base hit by Joey has given the Reds the lead at the stretch. Minutes before every game here on Fox Sports Ohio, with all the information you need to get ready. That's Reds Live pregame, brought to you by Ray St. Clair Roofing. We'll have another great edition for you tomorrow, beginning a little bit earlier, an hour earlier. Tomorrow's show starts at 6:30, game at 7:15 here in St. Louis. It'll be Anthony DeSclafani and his undefeated record at 6-0 for the Redlegs, going against Jaime Garcia, coming off an 8-inning outing his last time out against the Atlanta Braves. You can catch it all right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Of course, stream it live on Fox Sports Go. That's the finale of the series here in St. Louis tomorrow. Changes for the Reds. Ivan DeJesus Jr. takes over for Phillips at second base. Tyler Holt is in right field. Scott Schebler out of the game, and Michael Lorenzen is the man now on the mound for the Reds.
Well, Lorenzen's season did not begin, at least in the major leagues, until late June, and that was because of an elbow injury that he sustained down in spring training. They held him back in Arizona, brought him along very slow, but he is working really upside. Last 7 outings, he has not been scored upon. And he and Raisel Iglesias are really the main reasons why it's been such a turnaround for this Reds bullpen. The last 26 games prior to last night, that bullpen had a 2.0 earned run average, second only to the New York Yankees in the best bullpen in all of baseball. Prior to July 5th, they were on a pace to be the worst bullpen in the history of baseball. It's amazing what just a couple of solid additions can do. Was curious though last night why we did not see either Lorenzen nor Raisel Iglesias. Although they did this Sunday in Pittsburgh.
Lorenzen against Carpenter with Piscotty and Holiday to follow. Jesus is in the 9 spot, replacing the starter Finnegan for the Reds. He's again out at second base, replacing Phillips. You could see when Phillips was coming off the field, he had a grimace on his face as if he may have, when he hit into that force plate, jammed his hand, something of that nature. Here's a look at it.
What is it? Was it his hand, or perhaps did he re-aggravate that toe problem that he's had? He's had a bad case of like a turf toe. Really, that's dated back since May, and I imagine it's probably something down around his foot rather than his hand. Although we'll find out maybe after the ball game. Our sideline dugout guy, Jim Day, will be all over him.
Lorenzen gets off to a good start with a strikeout of Carpenter. Now 1-1 against Stephen Piscotty, who is twice hit into a double play tonight. Walk back in the first. Brandon Finnegan, like Mike Leake, 3 runs, 6 hits, 6 innings. He walked 6, a career worst, 1 intentional. He struck out 5. He threw 98 pitches. He can be the winner in this game, and if he gets it, even his record at 8-8. Lorenzen comes up and in and blows Piscotty away. That's back-to-back strikeout.
Well, the pitches that he was throwing to Matt Carpenter at 92 miles an hour, that was his cutter. When he cuts it loose, it's 96 and 97. Piscotty can't catch up. Really what you're looking at with Michael Lorenzen is, I guess, the new invention of Major League Baseball over the last 5 or 6 years, which is you bring in a guy in the 7th inning who throws 95, you bring a guy in the 8th inning who throws 97, and then you bring in your closer, hopefully he's throwing 100. But you come out there 1 inning and just essentially blow gas.
Holiday's home run in the 5th inning tied the game at 3. Reds now back in front 4-3 in the bottom of the 7th. Holt in right field. It's not going to get to this ball. It's by him and to the wall. Holiday is going to chug towards second, get in there with a slide, and he represents the tying run with 2 out here in the bottom of number 7.
Guy can flat out hit. I mean, at 36 years old, Holiday is proof that the last skill that leaves you is your ability to put the bat on the ball. Your arm goes, your legs go, your ability to go out there and play every day wears out. But Holiday can flat out hit. He'll be 37 next year. Question is, will the Cardinals bring him back at $17 million? That's the amount of his option.
They mentioned last night that during the month of June and July, he barely hit over 200 at 206, but has had a resurgence in the month of August. A pair of hits tonight, 3 hard hit balls. That's going to get into right field, and a base hit. Holiday being waved home. Holt's throw goes over the head of the catcher, and the game is tied 4-4. Michael Lorenzen blew back Carpenter and Piscotty to start the inning, but then The hard hit double by Holiday, and this shot into right by Moss.
Well, with 2 outs, even Holiday running, you're not going to get him at the plate. And that was an attempt to be a hero by Tyler Holt that ended up having a runner now on second base in a 4-4 game. That's a huge mistake. Just a fundamental breakdown for a guy that was put in to play defense. You know, in a way you can't blame him because you get such little playing time that when you're in there you want to make an impact. And he thought, I can throw him out. But a reality check would have been a better idea.
Now the Cardinals have the go-ahead run in scoring position with 2 out. Yadier Molina, who's already had a home run and a single tonight. Continuing his hot hitting ways, is at the plate. 2 hits tonight, 1 last night for Molina. Suarez on 2 hops to retire the side, but double by Holiday, single by Moss, and through 7, you're even at 4 here at Busch. He was very effective as he worked here last night. 2 innings of no-run, 1-hit baseball. He enters this thing in the 8th. By the way, that run by the Cardinals in the bottom of the 7th, that means that Brandon Finnegan will not be able to get the win here tonight. Bowman takes over.
Well, last time he went back-to-back nights, he gave up a 2 spot in 1 inning to the Reds. That was a a 5-4 game at Great American Ballpark. One game that was won by the Cardinals in that 3-game set last week.
Tyler Holt. Actually, this is DeJesus in this spot. He took over at second base and in the 6th spot, replacing Schebler in the lineup. Towards shortstop, and Peralta will make the play. DeJesus hustling down the line as he always does, but is out. 6-3. That will be a Eugenio Suarez. Suarez tonight 0 for 3 as a modest streak going of 3 games. 5 of his last 6 with a base hit. Pair of hits last night. Nothing to show offensively for tonight. Broke his bat. Carpenter will throw him out for the 2nd out of the inning. Matt Bowman gave up a hit, walked a batter, and 2 innings worth of work last night. Has come on here, gotten the first 2 he has faced, and now we'll deal with Tucker Barnhart.
Hey, one thing he has shown the Reds immediately, he's not afraid to pitch inside. He's not anywhere near overpowering, but I mean, he just came right in there, 3 pitches in a row to Suarez, and eventually broke his bat. He's the young man, as we mentioned last night, that the Cardinals picked up in the Rule 5 draft. That's a gapper.
That's going to be his 2nd hit of the night for Tucker Barnhart. It's going to get him a 2-base hit, and it's going to give Tyler Holt an opportunity to give the Reds the lead here in the top of the 8th as Tucker Barnhart, with his 2nd hit of the night, now is hitting 7 in a row. He's in scoring position with 2 out.
Oh, very similar to the way the Cardinals had their last inning go. First couple retired, then a double, and possibly a base hit here for the Reds would make this a 1-run game again. Tucker quietly putting together a really solid offensive season.
So now it's Tyler Holt. Young man out of Marion, Indiana. He's been with this club all year. Hitting just .215 with 7 runs batted in. Really hasn't had much playing time at all. There's a solid single into center by Tyler Holt, and that's going to give the Reds the lead one more time at 5-4. Holt into second base with a 2-base hit, and boy, this does unfold exactly like the Cardinals' 7th here in the Reds' 8th. 2 ground ball outs, nothing shaking, a double by Barnhart, and a rip by Tyler Holt gives him the run batted in, and a 5-4 Reds advantage.
Well, how about the bottom of the order right here? Holt ready for that pitch on the inner part of the plate, and it just caught too much of the plate for Matt Bowman. He realizes that as that shot goes into center field. Holt can run, and he gets into second base, and guy's full of vinegar now.
3rd double for Tyler Holt. Comes at a huge time here in the top of the 8th inning. He, like you, is full of cheese popcorn. Billy
It's gonna be a
slowly
tough
to the
play.
right side. Yeah, this is going to be tough, and it's going to roll by Carpenter, and Holt's going to come in and score. Matt Carpenter tried to barehand that ball, and when he did not stop it, Holt, with 2 men out, just kept moving right around third and comes home, and the Reds get a second run here in the top of the 8th.
Well, a sloppy play by a guy that you would not expect it to happen. You know, he's got to realize about halfway through, no chance to get Billy Hamilton on this. He came from so far deep in the infield. But Holt heads up right there. He sees that opening, and he's going to seize it, and a 2-run lead.
All this coming with 2 men out and nobody on. That's a hit for Hamilton and an error on Carpenter, their second error of the night. No run batted in, but a 6-4 Reds lead.
I mean, is this a testimony to the state of the Cardinal bullpen when you're bringing in a Rule 5 draftee for the second night in a row to pitch in a tie game in the 8th inning?
Well, you wouldn't think so, because as we mentioned last night, the Cardinal bullpen 4th best in the National League coming into this series.
Maybe Matheny was playing a hunch, but the same thing has happened now to Matt Bowman that happened to him in Cincinnati. Back-to-back nights. On the second night, he gave up 2 runs there. He's given up 2 runs here.
There goes the runner, Billy, and safe. Safe the call. He gets his 3rd stolen base of the night. .48 now for Hamilton.
You just wonder how many fans who come out and watch the Reds when they're on the road and they see Billy Hamilton run and they say, we wish we had that guy. That's the kind of player you want on your ball club right there.
He stole 56 bases his rookie year, 1 more, 57 last year, now with 48 this year. But 29 of those 48 stolen bases have come in July and August. I mean, his stolen base total was not climbing very rapidly at all early on. He's gotten on base more. And he has certainly run more. He had 10 stolen bases through the month of May.
So he's figured out a way to steal first.
You know, when people talked about Billy, they said, well, he can't steal first. As you say, he's figured out a way to get on. He's walked more. He's hit more. Thanks, as Jim Day was talking about earlier, to Joey Votto. He's now giving Bowman trouble out at second base. Toward Pham in center. Late break in, and it's going to fall for a hit. Pham broke back on that ball. The Cardinals center fielder then could not get to it. Neither could Piscotty. That's a base hit for Cozart and a run batted in. His 3rd hit of the night, and this has been a 3-run 8th.
Boy, the Cardinals have just been exposed in this inning. When you ask people who have watched this Cardinal team, what's happened to this ball club at home? They've got a sub-500 record. Why can't they win here at Busch Stadium? And they'll say a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Bad relief pitching from time to time, bad starting, also bad defense, and that's what has done them in here in this inning.
Matt Bowman out as Mike Matheny takes the ball from him. Cardinals will make a pitching change. This is our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Miller Lite. Who else but Billy Hamilton? There he goes again, stealing second base. His third steal of the night. 48 of them now for the year for Billy Hamilton, approaching 50 very rapidly. And here's an interesting graphic to take a look at regarding Billy Hamilton as Joey Votto steps in there with a new pitcher on, Zach Duke. We'll get to the graphic in a moment. Here's what we're talking about in terms of Billy Hamilton. He now has 5 games this year in which he's stolen at least 3 bases in a game. Every other National League player combined only has 4. That stolen base certainly paid off in the 7th. It pays off again in the 8th. Zach Duke becomes the 4th Cardinal pitcher of the night.
Oh, he's having a good year, Duke is. But that might be because he hasn't faced Joey Votto very much, because in his career against Votto, Votto has just owned the Duke. If you like, 545.
Joey tonight been on 3 times, 2 hits and a walk. All this coming in the 8th inning with 2 men out, nobody on. Double by Barnhart, double by Holt. Infield hit by Hamilton, and an error by the second baseman Carpenter when he let the ball trickle off his hand and behind him, allowing the runner Holt to score from third. Stolen base, Billy Hamilton. Flair single in the right center by Cozart, misplayed by the Cardinal outfield. All that against Bowman. Cozart running, and Votto strikes out, putting an end to the top of the 8th. But the Reds get 3 and lead now 7-4 in the middle of the 8th.
Is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Michael Lorenzen back to the mound. He gave up the run in the bottom of the 7th inning. The Cardinals tied it. Teammates give him 3 in the top of the 8th, and now he promptly gives up a base hit to Johnny Peralta to start the bottom of the 8th inning. Peralta now 2 for 3 tonight.
Been on 3 times.
Marcell Iglesias up and throwing.
Yeah, if you were wondering who Brian Price might tab tonight to close out the 9th inning, and it will not be Tony Cingrani.
There's Iglesias. Ryan said before the game he and Lorenzen unavailable to him last night.
Well, he had 32 pitches the day before in 1 inning in Pittsburgh, and he struggled in that inning, and the body language coming off the mound did not look very good. So I think they wanted to give him a night off. They remember that his arm has been tender this year, and he is way too valuable of a pitcher to push too hard too fast.
That one spins Jerko around. 2 balls and a strike. Jerko tonight has hit into 1 of the 3 Cardinal double plays. Flied out his last time.
Lorenzen really throws the ball to first base on a pickoff very hard, and he puts Joey Votto on his heels when he does. Votto's got to be ready. That's a good spot against Jerko.
He drops a breaking ball in there and freezes Jerko. He heads on back to the dugout.
Well, look at the placement of that last pitch right on the corner.
Big old overhand curveball right there. Now it's Tommy Pham with 1 out. Pitcher spot is due next for the Cardinals, and Matt Adams has emerged from the dugout. He pitched it in the game last night, 7th inning, and bounced into a double play. DeJesus, Cozart, Votto, got them both. Nice work, 4-6-3. 4th double play turned by the Reds tonight sends this game into the 9th. Has been brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices at Kroger. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. We invite you, as always, to cheer on your Reds when they take on the Dodgers coming up August 19th through the 22nd. Thanks to Reach Magazine, you can catch all the action and save with the 4 for $48 ticket offer. You get 4 view-level tickets, 4 Reds hats. You get it all for only $48. If you'd like tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/4 for $48. Young man making his major league debut here in the 9th inning, Alex Reyes.
He's the uber prospect that the Cardinals have had in their organization. Had kind of a breakout year last year. Don't be misled by that 4.9 earned run average down in Memphis. He had 65 innings down there in 14 starts, and he struck out 93. So you can see how the Cardinals feel that out of the bullpen, Reyes could be a guy that can bolster this bullpen immediately once he gets his feet wet. And not only just a fastball that'll touch nearly 100 miles an hour, but a good curveball. Scouts will also tell you he's got a fair changeup. Command, a little fringe right now.
He'll turn 22 later this month. He's from New Jersey, although he was born in the Dominican. Actually born in New Jersey, but his family from the Dominican.
Hello 101 on his first strikeout. I've said it before, but we're going to see more and more young pitchers coming up through the minor leagues that are throwing 100 miles an hour. This will be commonplace in 5 or 6 years.
And now Tony Renda will pinch hit for Michael Lorenzen. Quickly finds himself in the hole, 2 strikes. Renda last appeared as a pinch hitter in the 7th inning, had himself an RBI single on Sunday in Pittsburgh. He was Jim's guest, a pregame show. That handled there by Moss. 2 quick outs. So here's Ivan DeJesus Jr. His first at bat resulted in a ground out.
You know, as hard as Reyes throws, it really doesn't appear like he uses the lower part of his body very much. I mean, he is using the strength in his shoulder and his arms, not really pushing off like, say, a Jose Fernandez from the Miami Marlins, who really uses his legs as he drives to the plate. Got a big, strong lower half, though. Ooh. Thank goodness that was a changeup.
Toward Carpenter. The Reds go in order in the 9th, and Jose Reyes, Alex Reyes' major league debut is a 1-2-3 inning. So Raisel Iglesias, in his first save opportunity in the big leagues, will enter this game in the bottom of the 9th. Weekly, Scott Schebler made an immediate impact after being recalled from Louisville. Find out the philosophy of pitching coach Mac Jenkins. And it was a successful weekend for the RBI program and World Series that just wrapped up in Cincinnati. Reds Weekly with Jeff Pecoro and Doug Flynn debuts a new episode tomorrow night at 6 right here on Fox Sports Ohio. Speaking of a new chapter, Marcelo Iglesias looks to put a number in a category that has previously been all zeros, the save department.
Well, even the save department and the save opportunity department has not been available to Marcelo Iglesias. Having a wonderful season, although he got a very slow start on it due to a arm injury in spring training. That he came in, the Reds said he had a weak shoulder and they were working on his strength. As it turned out, he barked a little too much even after he became the opening day starter. Ended up going on the disabled list, and when they brought him back, here he is in the bullpen. And they figured it would be sooner or later. You would see him here in the 9th inning, and this is a save opportunity.
On the year with the Reds, a 2.13 ERA. That's his combined starting and relief numbers, 1-1. And this is 20th appearance of the year. And as a reliever this year, a 0.68 ERA and just over 26 innings worth of work. Gets Matt Adams to lead things off as a pinch hitter. Adams at 250 with a dozen home runs this year. 2 pinch hit home runs. Reds by 3. Playable and foul ground. Suarez, and the leadoff man is out. Adams has had a couple of pinch hit appearances in this series, been retired both times, so 1 down, and here's Matt Carpenter, who's 1 for 3. Iglesias trying to become the 6th Reds pitcher this year. 6th pitcher to have a save. Ronnie has 13. Remember J.C. Ramirez, he had a save.
If I'm not mistaken, in one of their World Series years, the Cardinals had 8 different pitchers that had saves.
Towering fly ball to center, but Billy Hamilton will make the catch for out number 2. You've got Cingrani, you've got Ramirez, you got J.J. Hoover, you've got Blake Wood, you got Ollendorf, and now 1 out away Iglesias from his first big league save. 2 out, nobody on for Stephen Piscotty. They appeal to first, and yes, says Angel Hernandez. Piscotty went around. 0 for 3 tonight with a walk. Reds trying to draw even in this series, set up the rubber game tomorrow night, which is the pitching matchup of Anthony DeSclafani and Jaime Garcia. Remember, it'll come to you an hour earlier, 6:30 Reds live, 7:15 Cincinnati time first pitch. Garcia. Boy, Iglesias wanted that one big time. Did not get the call from Lance Barksdale, but it was awfully close. He had something like that on Sunday in Pittsburgh, that a couple of times he thought he had strike calls and didn't get what he wanted. Got him there. The ball pops out of the glove. There's the throw. Out. And the ninth inning tonight goes much smoother than the ninth inning last night, as Iglesias will get that ball from Votto, save it as his first major league save. The Reds are a winner here tonight, 7-4 over the St. Louis Cardinals, and even this series at 1 game apiece. Glad hand from the Redlegs out on the field right behind the mound. First career save for Raisel Iglesias. Saves it from Michael Lorenzen. The loss goes to Matt Bowman. Uneventful ninth, which is exactly the way we like it here.